of you to this Sunday webinar of Philosophy Family. Today we have with us Dr. Prashant Shukla from University of Lucknow. We know Dr. Shukla as a very good scholar in the area of Greek philosophy. He has delivered a number of talks in Philosophy Family, and also he has contributed articles to the publications of Philosophy Family. Today, he is going to deliver a lecture under the title Pragmatism as an Exit from Philosophy. As we know, Dr. Shukla is known for his clarity in thought. Last time, too, he raised beautiful questions in the lecture of Dr. Shashi Kumar. Today, we all hope that he will deliver a very good lecture and request all of you to stay connected with us this evening for the lecture of Dr. Shukla. And we all hope that it would be a beautiful one. And also, I request all of you to raise questions, queries, or suggestions, comments on the talk of Dr. Shukla so that we can learn from the lecture and also the discussions that will follow from the lecture. So with these words, I welcome one and all. I welcome our admin, uh, Dr. Das. I welcome the speaker, Dr. Prashant Shukla. And without wasting much time, I welcome one and all. Let us move to Dr. Shukla for the talk. Namaskar, sir, please.
Uh, Namaskar, sir. First of all, I express my gratitude to Professor Maharana, Professor Dash, and Professor Rao, and the entire philosophy family to provide such an esteemed platform in front of such learned audience to express some of my thoughts, which have been bothering me since a couple of months. Uh, so, I think I should share my PPT. Just a moment, please.
Hello, sir.
Voice is bit low. Voice is bit low.
Am I audible?
Better now. Better now.
Okay, thank you. So, the title of my presentation today is Pragmatism and Exit from Philosophy. It has been a trend since a couple of years, couple of decades, as I've seen, where the foundational theory of philosophy has been disturbed, deviated, and sometimes twisted deliberately on the name of a new emerging so called theory with the name pragmatism. It has been used vehemently by several contemporary philosophical school and not so philosophical school like postmodernism, like pragmatism itself, and a couple of existential and continental approaches. Now, as I always claim that I have been trained and taught in the analytical school of philosophy, where philosophy has always been considered as number one, conceptual analysis of the term, number two, as per Wilfred Seller's definition, an attempt to generate the general nature of definition which can be over a period of time be applied to the society. So the emphasis here is that philosophy by nature is a theoretical discipline. Now that is vital that such theory can be applied to the social or the practical aspect as well, and that is a good thing. But then, all in all, philosophy, qua philosophy, has to be understood as a theoretical discipline. We are definitely theory making discipline. We are definition generating discipline. We don't prefer to make perceptual analysis, we leave them to some other fields like science, sociology, anthropology, and so on. And we are well contented to develop some theories on the basis of logical, argumentative consistency. As we all know, philosophy, whether in the Oriental tradition or in the Occidental tradition, has been understood with the three aspects: metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics. To answer the questions like what, how, and why. So, all in all, we have to start with the basic presumption that metaphysics as an essential aspect of philosophy. Of course, there would have been philosophy like A.J. Ayer, who propounded the theory for the negation or the rejection of metaphysics, but still, they have been talking about metaphysics, which means you cannot evade the concept of metaphysics while doing philosophy. As we all know, metaphysics seeks to answer profound questions such as what is ultimately real, what is the nature of being, how do things exist independently or in relation to one another. The term metaphysics originates from Aristotle's works, where it was later classified as the study of being qua being. Over centuries, metaphysical inquiry has influenced various domains of thought, including epistemology, ethics, and of natural sciences. I hope the PPT is visible. Yes, thank you. Now, metaphysics plays a crucial role in philosophy because it provides the foundational framework for understanding reality. So, there has been a slight deviation while making a definition of metaphysics. While certain group of philosophers, like preferably the idealists, claim that metaphysics means going beyond physics, so going beyond this worldly understanding. But on the other hand, there has been a certain group of realists who claim that the term meta here applies to the meaning of about. So whenever someone talks about physics, asks the foundational question about this word or physical word, then the person does metaphysics. Whatever the definition might be, at least this much is beyond doubt that you cannot evade the metaphysical discussion while doing philosophy. In fact, every philosophical discourse, whether concerning knowledge, morality, consciousness, implicitly or explicitly, depends on certain metaphysical standpoint, whether you accept it, whether you reject it, or maybe whether you doubt it. But you have to have a certain kind of metaphysical viewpoint. For instance, Descartes' cogito ergo sum is not merely an epistemic claim, but one deeply embedded in a metaphysical stance concerning the nature of self and existence, that is, the mind and the matter. Likewise, Immanuel Kant's CPR, the Critique of Pure Reason, challenges metaphysical assumption, and while this challenge uh, assumes the limits of human cognition in accessing the thing in itself. So, whether you like it, whether you dislike it, whether you love it or you just hate it, you cannot evade the idea of metaphysics while making a philosophical position. The influence of metaphysics extends beyond philosophy even into the sciences. Early scientific endeavors were often guided by the metaphysical assumption. Let's say, for the sake of example, Isaac Newton's mechanistic worldview was rooted in a certain form of metaphysical realism, where reality was believed to exist objectively independent of our perception. And that has been clearly mentioned in Sir Isaac Newton's 1687 publication, Mathematical Principles in Natural Philosophy. In contrast to that, developments in quantum physics have reignited debates about idealistic perspectives, particularly regarding the role of observer in shaping our realities, as mentioned in Physics and Philosophy by Heisenberg. Thus, we can say metaphysics remains indispensable in shaping both our theoretical and practical discourses in various fields. At the core of metaphysical thought lies a fundamental division between two basic opposite school of philosophical thoughts, as we all know, idealism and realism. Now, these two contradictory positions offer distinct yet exclusive perspectives on the nature of reality and how we come to understand it. Let's discuss them one by one. So, idealism developed as a position which accepts reality as mind dependent. Idealism posits that reality is fundamentally mental, conceptual, or immaterial. Well, some of the idealists believe it to be abstract, while some other may also believe it to be as concrete as anyone may presume, even the realist. So, this perspective suggests that what we perceive as reality is either a construction of the mind or entirely, solely dependent on it. In fact, one of the earliest and most influential proponent of idealism was none other than Plato, who, in his Theory of Forms in Republic Book 6, argued that material world is merely a shadow, a replica, or a partial manifestation of a higher, more real, and unchanging realm of the abstract form of ideas. And that is why sometimes we understand idealism as ideaism, where we give preference to idea over matter, and in the other context as idealism, where we talk about a ideal position or understanding. So the theory is equally prevalent uh, in the epistemic discussion as well as in the ethical discussion. And maybe that is the reason that you find certain overlapping statements between idealism and perfectionism as well. Well, later, Bishop George Berkeley, in his work, A Treatise Concerning the Principles of Human Knowledge, advanced an even more radical form of idealism, arguing that material objects do not, cannot exist independently of our perception. As we all know, his famous dictum, esse est percepti, drishyate iti vartate, to be is to be perceived, asserts that reality consists only of our perception and the perceiving mind. Well, that is the first position. And the second position comes with the name of realism, which posits reality as mind independent entity. So, in contrast, realism holds that reality exists independently, free of human perception or human thoughts. Realists argue that the external world remains the same whether it is or not it is perceived. This position has been historically associated with the master philosopher Aristotle, who rejected, I would prefer not to call it as rejection, rather modification. So, who modified Plato's idealistic view and asserted that substance exists in the material physical world rather than in an abstract realm. And for this, he gave his famous barber's cut theory, where he mentioned if you believe idealism to be the sole philosophical position, then it will go on uh, in the fallacy of infinite regress. So it will just be like the Socrates beard, which keeps on growing and growing ad infinitum, unless until there comes a barber who has the guts to cut the Socrates beard. And here comes Aristotle's realism for the first time. So, a later development of Aristotle's realism can be seen in the work of John Locke, who distinguished between primary qualities such as shape, motion, form, figure, number, staticity, and so on, that exist in objects themselves, and the secondary qualities such as color, taste, sound, and so on, which exist only in the perception of the observer. This particular perspective laid the foundation for empiricism, enforcing the idea that the knowledge of the external world is acquired through sensory experiences. A more contemporary form of realism, which we call as later realism, scientific realism, maintains that the world is described by science, including unobservable entities like, let's say, atoms and quarks, exist independently of our perception or understanding. The view has been put forward by Hilary Putnam in his famous text, Reason, Truth, and History. Now, this perspective continues to inform modern scientific discourses and remains a dominant position in philosophy even today. Now, there has been a lasting debate in between idealism and realism. We prefer to call it as idealism versus realism. So, the debate between idealist and the realist position remains one of the most enduring tasks in the field of philosophy. It influences various disciplines from epistemology and ethics to science and religion. And here I remember the School of Athens, the famous painting by Peter Raphael, symbolically representing this division, depicting Plato pointing towards the realm of idea, while Aristotle gestured towards the earthly plane, emphasizing empirical reality. I prefer to call it as the here and there debate. I shall come back to that. This visual representation captures the fundamental divergence between two exclusive, contradictory metaphysical positions, highlighting their impact on the development of philosophical thoughts. Both idealism and realism continue to shape contemporary philosophical discussion, with modern thinkers attempting to reconcile aspects of both idealist and realist position. For the sake of example, Immanuel Kant proposed his transcendental idealism, suggesting that while things exist independently of perception, that is, noumena, our understanding of them is shaped by the structure of human cognition, that is, phenomena. Now, this synthesis shows that while these positions remain opposed in their purest form, their interaction has led to significant, appreciable philosophical advancement. So, we may call it that this kind of binary understanding is foundational to develop any sort of philosophical debate or discourse. Uh, the distinction between idealism and realism is not merely an abstract debate but a foundational issue which provides elements that influences all subsequent philosophical discourse. The evolution of metaphysics has given rise to various schools of thought, each attempting to address fundamental questions about reality. And that is the task of philosophy, isn't it? We are prone to ask the foundational question. And of course, it provides a sense of discomfort, a dilemma, a sense of uneasiness. And that is precisely what we call as aporia. And we develop a proper footing, once we develop a proper understanding, that is how we name it as Socrates' ataraxia, a well contented life after understanding. So, anyway, the school of Athens undeniably places Plato and Aristotle at the very center of philosophical tradition. Zeller says, Athens is the magnifying glass through which you look at the history of Western philosophy. There has been Whitehead who said, the entire history of Western philosophy, in fact, he never mentioned the term Western philosophy, but he bluntly said, the entire history of philosophy is nothing but simply the footnotes of what Plato has said. So, anyway, the school of Athens visually reinforcing their status as the two foundational figures in the history of metaphysics. The painting makes a powerful statement. Every subsequent position, whether in metaphysics or in epistemology or in ethics, must ultimately align with either idealism or realism. So I have absolutely no problem if you oppose idealism, reject idealism, and support realism, or vice versa. But you are compelled to take one of the two positions if you claim to be a part of the philosophical discourse. So here comes the painting which I have been referring to. Uh, the famous painting, actually, this painting was made in the age of Renaissance in the Roman context, where Peter Raphael, imagine, gives a sort of visual description of almost all the prominent Greek philosopher representing their particular theories. Now, of course, it's an imaginary theory, but as we all know, Peter Raphael has been a very prominent and official commentator of the Hellenic school of philosophy. So, in one painting, he attempts to posit his position, his official position about what he understands as a philosophy, as an actual history of philosophy. In fact, we are in so much love with this particular painting that our student know. Abhin knows, Gaurav knows, Priya, Tulika, all the people knows that we have deliberately placed this particular painting in the seminar hall of our Department of Philosophy, Lucknow University. Anyways, so if you look at this particular painting closely, you will find that it has got the entire galaxy of philosophers, from Thales to Anaximander to Anaximenes, from Anaxagoras to Pythagoras, from Democritus, Leucippus, Empedocles, and then Plato and Aristotle and Cynics and Cyrenaics and Stoics and Marcus Aurelius. Surprisingly, Raphael was so meticulous in his task, he never drew Socrates, because Raphael was the person who was influenced by the conspiracy theory that maybe Socrates as a person has never existed in the history of Greek philosophy. And if Socrates existed, he was existing only in the mind of Plato. And that is why most of the official Greek commentators, may it be Albert Schweitzer, Dale Riepp, W.T. Stace, or Raphael himself, always prefer to call Socrates as Plato Socrates. Now, that is a different point of contention, but as you can see, Raphael deliberately places Plato on the left hand side and Aristotle carrying the metaphysics on the right hand side. And if you look at the painting closely, so Plato and Aristotle are walking sided by side as the tallest figure in the history of philosophy, and their gesture reveals the theory they are proposing. So, on the one side, there is Plato, who is pointing his fingers towards the sky, and on the other side, there is Aristotle carrying his text with the name First Philosophy, later on called as Metaphysics. But he is not pointing upward, rather, he is facing his palm downward. And that is an interesting painting, and that gives us some kind of impression for further discussion. So, uh, all other positions revolve around this binary. Either you have to point upward or you have to point downward. Now, Raphael's composition emphasizes that every philosopher in history has, in one way or another, positioned themselves in relation to these two core metaphysical positions. You cannot get rid of that if you have to be in the field of philosophy. In fact, every philosophical tradition that followed has either of the position. For the sake of example, there has been an extended, modified, or defended idealism. So there has been Neoplatonism of Plotinus, which refined Plato's concept of transcendental reality. Then rationalism, Descartes, Leibniz, as Spinoza, with of course some caveats, which I am not discussing because of the scarcity of time. So rationalism upheld reason as the primary means of accessing truth, often aligning with Plato's belief in innate ideas. And then German idealism of Immanuel Kant and G.W.F. Hegel reinterpreted, rejuvenated Plato's ideas in the context of transcendental idealism and dialectical idealism. But on the other hand, there has been extended or modified or defended realism. So empiricists like Locke, Berkeley, and Hume, of course with some caveats, reinforce Aristotle's emphasis on sense perception as the foundation of knowledge. Why I am referring with some caveats? Because you might be thinking about Berkeley, who is known as subjective idealist. But yes, it is a kind of modified or defended realism in the other sense, where the arguments have been cleverly positioned in a very consistent manner. Then there has been scientific realism of Newton, Darwin, and other contemporary physicists, which built upon Aristotle's notion that reality consists of observable substance governed by natural laws. And then there has been analytical philosophers like Russell, Quine, Wittgenstein, Moore, and others who emphasize logical analysis, aligning with Aristotle's empirical and logical method. And just a kind of disclaimer, I'm not referring to later Russell, later Quine, or later Wittgenstein. I'm talking about the pure, technical, early Russell, early Quine, and early Wittgenstein. Anyways, so every skeptic and pragmatist who challenges traditional metaphysical assumption must still engage with either of the two positions, either rejecting or modifying or synthesizing them. Peter Ruffell's painting does more than simply depicting history. It does much more. It asserts it asserts a philosophical position. It asserts a philosophical principle. Any attempt to understand reality, whether through metaphysics or through science or ethics, must align with one of these two paradigms. The entire tradition of the Western thought is, at its core, an ongoing dialogue between idealism and realism. This makes this painting of the School of Athens not just a work of art, but a visual manifesto of the philosophy itself. Now, one of the fundamental claims in metaphysics is that any new philosophical theory must align with either idealism or realism. This assertion follows from the idea that all metaphysical theories must take a stance on the nature of reality, that is, the metaphysical stance, whether it is fundamentally mind dependent, then it would be idealistic position, or mind independent, then it would be the realist position. However, this claim is not without objection, as certain philosophical traditions do challenge the notion that all theory must fit neatly into one of these two categories. So, any new theory must align with either idealism or realism. For the sake of example, rationalism and empiricism of 17th and 18th century. So the debate between rationalists and empiricists in early modern position closely mirrors the idealism versus realism divide. Then Kant's transcendental idealism, which can be seen as a synthesis to reconcile these two positions, despite appearing as a middle ground, Kantian system ultimately aligns more with idealism as he maintains that we can never know reality as it is. And then the 19th century idealism versus scientific realism. So the German idealism of Hegel, Fichte, Schelling, and the scientific realism of Darwin, Helmholtz, and Mach somehow or other align with one of the two theories. Now the question rises, is the idealism and realism divide inescapable? Well, the answer can be yes and no. It is inescapable because somehow or the other you will fall into one of the two categories. But it is escapable because there are some schools of philosophy which claim to go beyond the divide. But the problem is that they also go beyond the boundary of philosophy. So, while historically most philosophical theories align with either idealism or realism, the rise of pragmatism, existentialism, and postmodernism challenges the notion that all reality must fit neatly into the binary. However, one could argue that even these categories implicitly align with one of the two positions. Pragmatism leans towards realism as it assumes the world is defined by action and interaction. Existentialism leans towards idealism as it assumes that meaning and existence are subjectively constructed. And postmodernism rejects the debate altogether, questioning whether philosophical discussions are even meaningful. With this, let us come to pragmatism. So, as we all know, pragmatism emerged as a distinct philosophical movement in the late 20th century as a response to the long standing debates between idealism and realism. Unlike these traditional metaphysical positions, which sought to establish absolute certainty to go either this way or that, pragmatism focused on practical consequences idea that truth is not an inherent property of the statement or proposition or concept. Truth is determined by their effectiveness in real world application. Which gives me a sense of discomfort, particularly in the philosophical backdrop. As we all know, pragmatism originated in France and is primarily associated with three key thinkers: who accepted pragmatism as a particular method, the mode of inquiry. Often considered the father of pragmatism, introduced a term in his essay, The Fixation of Ideas, 1889, and later developed it in How to Make Our Ideas Clear, 1878. In fact, these two essays came back to back.
Prashant Shukla ji for a beautiful presentation. The clarity in thought that he has, that as I said before this webinar, that Dr. Shukla is known for his clarity and very beautifully he has presented the talk today. And uh, um, he has number of things on which we can discuss. To start with, let us move to Dr. Ranjit Ghosh sir to have his queries, observations, and uh, to initiate the discussion. Namaskar, sir. Ranjit Ghosh, sir. I think he's there. We can initiate the discussion with Dr. Ghosh and then we'll move forward. Isn't okay? I think Dr. Ghosh is not.
Namaskar. Namaskar. Now I think I'm audible now.
Yes, sir. Audible.
Muted. So I was listening to Dr. Prasant's deliberation on as to why pragmatism is an exit from philosophy. Now he is taking a position, no doubt, that pragmatism cannot be taken as a philosophy, or we cannot say that pragmatism or pragmatic philosophy. Now the thing is, pragmatism, when we as a particular thinker, he will always take some position, and that position means a type of worldview, and this worldview, we can say, rationalists, they take one worldview which is based on reason, and empiricists, they take the worldview which is based on sense. Now, apart from sense and reason, there is another thing which pragmatism has tried to emphasize, that is will. And that is why, that's why James is propounding a theory of will to believe. That is the thing, will to believe. Now the thing is, pragmatism, it is definitely a very, he has tried to prove that pragmatism is an exit from philosophy, but still I think it is a moot question as to whether pragmatism should be totally rejected as having no worldview of its own. Because you see, we can take the year of a version of Bradley. What Bradley says, that a person who denies metaphysics is a brother metaphysician with a rival theory of his own. This is the thing. So if pragmatism is, pragmatism has tried to apply the philosophical worldviews into practice, and that is why it cannot be just rejected as not a philosophical standpoint. Because you take the case of Dewey, you take the case of whatever they are doing, the practicality aspect is also very important in one's life. And that practicality is about the practicality on a particular worldview. So whether we accept it, whether we can practice it, so all these things. So I believe that totally saying that pragmatism is an exit from philosophy, it requires still more thinking. How would you react to this? Okay, thank you.
Dr. Shukla.
Sir, talking about William James.
Sir, your voice is low, sir. Your voice is low.
Let's say, for the sake of example, at no point of time it is claimed that pragmatism is not important in as a practical view or a utilitarian point of view. It is of course useful, it is natural, and it is inevitable. What I emphasize here is that if philosophy has been taken as the conceptual analysis of the term, if philosophy has been taken as a second order inquiry, if philosophy has been taken as a definition making exercise, if philosophy has been taken as a theory making exercise, that is the typical technical analytical position, then pragmatism cannot be accepted within the boundary of philosophy. In fact, that is the reason even the pragmatist has been has shown quite aversion from directly referring to themselves as a philosopher. Let me take the example of William James, who in 1907 clearly described himself as a psychologist philosopher. He never called himself as a philosopher. Not only this, John Dewey in 1920 clearly preferred himself to be characterized as an educator, as a social theorist, but has always been reluctant to identify himself as a philosopher. So, this in a way highlights the pragmatist departure from the traditional philosophical approaches. Now, in that case, if you are claiming that philosophy has to have some or the other kind of practical utility, I totally accept. Every theory is bound to have a particular kind of utility or practicality. But while I gradually shift from the position of a philosopher, the theoretician, to a reformer, to an activist, to a practical person, I should take away the mantle, the cloak of a philosopher, and prefer to call myself as a practical person. So that is my position, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Uh, I think there will be a problem if we accept this type of position. Then the problem will be that you are also bringing postmodernism. So they are also always trying to emphasize on these sort of binaries, and they are trying to reject everything. So that is the position. So in that case, if we say that they are now the thing is on what basis they are rejecting this. So that is, so you can say it is a perspective. It is your version is a perspective that perspectivistic, because you say that pragmatism is not a philosophy. That is the position that you are taking. So in that way, it is all right. All right, you carry on your perspective. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ghosh. Well, going in that light, the problem that I see is, when we talk of the evolutionary framework in pragmatism, and something which is evolving, something which is looking into situations in an evolutionary way, non-statical way. So, can't we incorporate that into the fundamental structure of philosophy itself? Because something which is enriching, something which is evolving, is always enriching something in a certain perspective or from some certain point of view. So, something which is enriching, can't we incorporate into the very basic structure of philosophy itself? So, that is a question that comes to my mind. So, which I think pragmatism is somehow enriching philosophy that way also, because um, we are concerned about the absolute truths, no doubt, but if you take everything as absolute, something we take for granted, again, that is something we cannot defend from scientific platform, where the change is so essential, because we cannot be so stiff to some stand for all time to come. So that's how pragmatism, the evolutionary aspect, is somehow I think it is supporting philosophy, is not going against. How do you see this, sir?
Totally agree with that.
Whenever we take this thing that we start any inquiry, then whatever the way we start, whatever we take as the first premise, that itself is philosophical, because we start our inquiry, we start questioning, we take a position, and then we start questioning it. And when we do that, then it must have philosophical element in it. And the way pragmatists they used to do, so that's why will to believe of William James, he says that apart from reason and sense, there is another thing which is important in the life of a person, that is will. And that will actually determines all these things. So when don't you think that unless will is there, we cannot sense or we cannot reason? So that way, will becomes prominent, no doubt. But will doesn't deny either sense or reason. So in any case, and similarly, idealism or realism. So in this way, it is just an enlargement of reason sense debate or all these things through will. That is the idea of will to believe. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. That is a very interesting position. Suppose a pragmatist take the first position, or maybe the foundational position. My counter question would be: would it still be a pragmatist position? Because you have taken a position, and technically, a pragmatist cannot adhere to a particular kind of position. And the moment you emphasize on a position, you cease to be a pragmatist. Number one. Number two, Professor Rao sir has rightly mentioned, and I have absolutely no doubt, you can use pragmatism to enrich the theory, the principle being posited by a philosopher. But that would not make it a philosophy. I repeat, you can use sociological theory to enrich literature and vice versa. Well taken, and it is appreciable. But that would never make sociology as literature or literature as sociology. The identity, the technical divide should be maintained, the airtight compartmentalization. If it is evaded, there would be such blurred position that we would, I'm not sure what would we call themselves. Should we remain as philosopher? We become literature, we become common man, or what? So, for the sake of purity in the field of academies, at least this minimal distinction has to be maintained by anyone, a philosopher or otherwise. That is my humble position. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
The thing is,
Thank you. Dr.
take the case of psychology, take the case of sociology. All these branches of knowledge, they can be included within philosophy, because the position taken in all these cases we find is philosophical. So you are taking a position, it's all right, but still pragmatism, there is no need to discuss pragmatism as a philosophy, because pragmatism may be taken as a technique, may be taken as an instrument. That's why Dewey says it's a theory of instrumentalism. So it can be taken as that, but behind these things there is a philosophy. So Bradley comes to my mind always. A person who denies metaphysics is a brother metaphysician with a rival theory of his own. This is the thing. All right, you have taken the position. That's all right. Carry on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ghosh. Well, I also thank Dr. Shukla for his commitment. Well, what he sees is in pragmatism, there is a lack of sort of ontological commitment. That hurts it. That's the stand that he mostly believes, because once a theory, whatsoever, may be pragmatism or anything else, if it is not committed, it doesn't have an ontological status. It doesn't give due place to the ontological element. Then he claims, he feels that it cannot adhere or it cannot come close to what we call the basic philosophical structure, or cannot be righteously be called as philosophy. So this is his submission. That is what he has in mind. Okay. Anyway, we can carry on this discussion further, where
Amita
people
Valmik, Professor
proudly have.
Amita Valmik.
We have with us Dr. Professor Amita Valmiki, madam. Namaskar, madam. After a long time seeing you. Well, welcome, madam. Please. Namaskar, madam. Professor Valmiki, madam.
Last some of the, excuse me,
Namaskar,
Shukla
madam.
ji, it was,
Namaskar.
yeah, namaste sir, and namaste Das sir, Ranjit sir, and all the dignitaries and all the participants. Shukla ji, it was wonderful elucidation, wonderful, and the flow was very good. I was thinking if it was um, a play staged, then it would be a nice monologue, and the sutradhar would go on speaking, and I would love to listen to this. But apart from that, like Ranjit sir said and Rao sir said, I have, of course, I do not accept your position literally. Literally, I don't, because I feel that a philosophy person should be presuppositionless, because you are starting you have already presupposed that pragmatism is cannot be a philosophy. I think in ethics of ambiguity, Simone de Beauvoir says that there is this distinction between ideal world and or meta ethics or meta something and facticity. And it is always this dilemma, and that is why the ambiguity. My question is that why are you so scared of ambiguity? Why are you so scared of lack of ontological position? Why are you scared of instrumentalism? Why are you scared of relativism? Because that makes life worth living. I mean, this is a philosophical position. And it is because whenever I'm doing John Davy in the class or Boer in the class or Sartre in the class, I'm flaunting with the theory, They speak so beautifully, and literally I visualize philosophy, not the anti-metaphysical position. I don't see that at all. And even postmodern, because that word is actually one of the philosophers I met in a congress, and he denied that let us not speak of the word, the term postmodernism or post-postmodernism. Nowadays it is out of vogue. So let us give way to something else rather than saying my I love existentialism very much. And of course, Dash sir and Rao sir knows that it is more pro towards theistic or theological existentialism, which is not devoid of metaphysics. Not devoid of metaphysics, it is devoid of metaphysics with metaphysics. So this ambiguity will always remain. Only my question is that why are you so scared of accepting this fact?
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
First of all, yes, I am scared.
Can you be louder with your mic? Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. First of all, I am scared of the ambiguity prevalent these days, particularly in the field of philosophy, on the name of pragmatism. Last year, if Professor Rao remembers, Professor Dash also remembers, I emphasized a position where I claim that a literary position is not the same as the linguistic position. The philosopher is and has to have a particular kind of position. Whenever we are making a discussion, we are prone, we are bound, we are compelled to have a particular kind of position. Because if we are not having any kind of position, I don't know what we are doing. So we are just roaming around, but we are not going anywhere.
But
The
aren't we, Shukla, excuse me,
Yes.
I'm not cutting you short. I want to listen from you because it was so beautiful presentation. I just loved the flow and logic in it. My problem is that roaming around is philosophy. The becoming is philosophy, inquiry is philosophy, or maybe if you rest, as Boer says, once in the finis and sinus, privis and sinus, that once you rest, you are accepting the absolute. And once you accept the absolute, there is no progress. So why wandering and searching and going on? And why infinite is unexpected, cannot be thought of.
Okay. First of
As
all,
Russell puts in as an against ontological argument.
no. First of all, roaming around should not be taken as an ornamental term, and I'm not taking it. Roaming around and going somewhere with a particular purpose is two totally different things. Ma'am, you mentioned that I'm scared of the pragmatism simply because of the reason. Because nowadays, philosophy has been taken as such a place where a lot of people are doing a lot of things. Sometimes they are making sense, sometimes they are not making sense. So a lot of people sometimes they are proposing some ideology, sometimes they are presenting poetry, sometimes they are doing something else, sometimes even they are taking radical religious position on the name that they claim that we are doing a certain kind of philosophy. In fact, the way I have been trained, Professor Rakesh Chandra has been here, and a lot of students who know, we proudly call ourselves as the watchdogs of philosophy. Our Vice Chancellor, our senior colleague, Professor Ruprek Verma said that the training of analytical philosophy is such that we have been named as the Alsatian dogs who have been watchdogging the gatekeeper of the field of philosophy. And there has been no selfish interest in that. We are just cautious that undue element should not be allowed to over dilute the field of philosophy. This is a sense of pride we have in our particular kind of training, in our particular kind of subject. So yes, as you have seen, some kind of ambiguity is okay. But the point is, as I have mentioned, sometimes you open the Pandora box and then you don't know how to shut it down. That is my scare. That is how I am scared. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Uh, I still feel that uh, can we थोड़ा सा escape हो सकता है क्या इसमें से? Because absolute exit from philosophy. Because reading John Davy is like it is so beautiful,
Yes.
and it gives you it gives you such an good feeling, because as an academician, I feel so nice reading him, where he brings together both William James and Charles Peirce, both together in his philosophy. And this particular element is not philosophy.
Uh, K. Sajadan Murthy has emphasized that there are three ways in which we can do philosophy. Either we are bound to be one kind of analytical philosopher, the other kind of continental philosopher, or maybe we can be called a speculative philosophy. But in all the three positions, one or the other kind of foundational presupposition is mandatory. Because if we deny any kind of position, either we would cease to be a philosopher, or not having any position would become still a kind of position its own. So, so that is how it is. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was very nice. Thank you so much giving this insightful thought. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Valmiki, and
Also,
also
thank you so much for giving so much time. So much. Sorry.
thank you so much, madam. Also, thank Dr. Shukla, where he is very much clear that if you are doing philosophy, you have to come up with a stand, not just a stand, a stiff stand. It's not like you are flowing, and you are flowing the way you are positioned there. You don't have a stand, you move to any stand and say that's philosophy. He is not prepared to accept. So, what the pragmatists do, accept anything as true the way it comes. If it is useful, if it has a consequence, a practical consequence. So, you are not attached to any stand, you are flowing with whatever it comes to you. So, that cannot be philosophy. That's the problem that he carries. because we are not committed to any truth. We don't have a position, we don't have a stand, we don't have a ground. We have a changing ground with the situation. We see the situation, and the situation demands the truth. So that's how he takes pragmatism. Cannot be righteously called as a philosophical theory, because nothing is fixed. Nothing is, I think, not. I should not say we don't have a stiff stand. So that is the problem. We don't have an
May I add something in the meanwhile?
The administration. Yeah.
Uh, it has been happening with me since a couple of years. Random people are coming from different walks of life and they say, okay, you are faculty of philosophy. Well, I know philosophy, I have been doing philosophy. And when I counter ask, okay, if you are doing philosophy, what kind of philosophy you are doing, please explain. So there are some people who claim that I have been reading Ramcharitmanas and that is a philosophy, because then I am a philosopher. There are people who say that I am reading Quran, I am reading Bible, and then I am a philosopher. And then I get scared. There should be a gate, and the technical philosophy should be the gatekeeper. That is my humble position.
But Shuklaji, the problem will be that then how will we implement NEP if there are compartmentalization? Because, my God, because it has been a torture to us.
Same here, man.
Yeah, it's a real torture in a sense that gusav in every practical thing, or here also and here also. This cannot be done. So um, only way is that, yeah, we can participate in each other, but philosophy is philosophy. Thank you. That position I accept. Yeah. Thank you so much.
thank you, madam. I was disconnected for a while. Anyway, we love the way Dr. Shukla is going on. Um, uh, we have with us Dr. Radhanath Behra, sir. Well, if he's interested, he can have his position. Dr. Behra, namaskar.
Namaskar. I congratulate Suklaji for the great sweep of his knowledge, right from Socrates to Professor John Dewey and so on. One thing comes to my mind, because I am not a trained philosopher, I am a student of science and mathematics. I will extend your ideas into my realm, higher mathematics. Mathematics is also called high philosophy, and that was felt pragmatically by Bertrand Russell himself. So, if you read Russell, he says, up to certain extent, my inquiry about logic, symbolic logic, and mathematics flowed, but it had to be put down because extension beyond that is not possible. Along with his master, a teacher, A. N. Whitehead, Russell wrote brilliant philosophy, namely Principia Mathematica. The whole world was shocked that they have wasted so much of time, precious to them, that nobody actually understood except the twin authors themselves. So that was such a daunting task by Anne Whitehead and Bertrand Russell. Coming down to your pragmatism, see, in mathematics we have two thoughts. One is formalism, and the second is intuitionalism. Intuitionalism takes you very high into the seven heavens, into cloud nine. But formalists, they move stepwise, cautiously, just to arrive the truth inside our theory, inside our axiom, or inside our postulate. So these are the terms we use. Is it consistent? Mathematics, of course, at times it drifts and it never comes to the conclusion that it is consistent. At times, it veers around a subject about the truth and as about its kernel, and it supposes it knows but fails. So when we come to the scientific analysis of uh, Darwin, there is a funny example how from a teenage cell of jelly, the theory of evolution evolves and proceeds right up to human being. Because if you analyze the steps taken by Darwin, it had already taken 20 years of his life. And to reach such a daunting task with its truth oriented philosophy, it is humanly not possible. Yet, out of his keen insight, out of his intuition, or out of his what you call as idealism, he reached at a very, very prophetic sentence. It is struggle for existence, it is survival of the fittest. Those who are fitted to adapt themselves to changing situations, they only survive, the rest perish on their way. You see, look at how the philosophical ideas permeate into the brain of scientists. After all, scientists may be pragmatic, they may be logically oriented, but still then they have that insight, a robust insight. Whatever, wherever insight drags you, you follow it, and at the same time, think of the practical application of it. Is it logical? Can we falter? Shall we reach the truth hidden within? These are some of the questions which a scientist, during his discovery or invention or philosophizing, reaches. It's a very wonderful task. I'm happy that as a student of mathematics, I am able to understand some of your ideas and coming down to pragmatism. Maybe it is the basis of science. Unless there is a pragmatic truth in his inquiry, there may not be any truth to be arrived at. So, pragmatism may be truthful, but then if we pursue it for a time, it has its limitation. Like logic, it stops. I'm reminded of a literary output by Dr. Samuel Johnson. Dr. Johnson, as his disciple or friend, Boswell records that Johnson was happy to recall how knowledge flourishes. He used to say, knowledge is of two kinds. One, we know the subject ourselves by either, as you philosophers prefer to call it, by empiricism, by touch, or by sensation. Or the second one, where we can find information upon it, where we can get that particular information about the truth of the knowledge. So that was a sort of nice philosophy given by not a technical philosopher, but by a man of literature, from whom the position of doctorate came to us. We're all doctors, no doubt, in our own way. And we recognize the melody. The idea of philosophy, as Will Durant used to suggest, is not merely to interpret life, but to change it. Time has come. We have to change. How? Not by resorting to one particular path of knowledge, but to its nuances or ramifications. And whenever we feel comfortable, let us pursue it. Maybe our idealism, our rationalism, our realism, they move along parallel lines to our mathematical observation. We know that two lines are parallel because from one point, if you draw a perpendicular, that length remains always the same and they never meet. East is east, west is west. Rudyard Kipling said, never the twain shall meet. So let us see how pragmatism fits into it. As you said, that if it is not a philosophy, or if it is a philosophy, it would dilute the sense of argument, the basis of the sturdy foundation of philosophy. Maybe it is true because it would proceed up to certain extent and it may be lost in its own inquiry. Therefore, the best thing is let us take pragmatism as a basis of the two ideas, the dichotomy of intuition and formalism, or the dichotomy of realism and idealism. So, politics it can never be steady. When Albert Einstein was offered the presidency of newly formed Israel, he used to say, I have no mind for politics. You see, the brilliant scientist of the century, he used to acknowledge, I have no mind for science. I am in politics. It comes very fast and very soon. So that dynamism is, of course, by observation we understand that politics can never be contained within a system or democracy or totalitarianism or oligarchy or even aristocracy and so on. It is always in a state of flux. It has to move. And moving is possible only when you rely on not realism, because I think one of our friends used to uh, observe that once you say that it is absolute, absolute is something very far, and once you reach absolutism, it is stagnation. Beyond that, life may not move at all. And the philosopher, the scientist, and the man of literature, H.G. Wells, used to say that absolute truths are so few in number that it can be contained, transcribed on the backside, reverse side of a postcard, because postcard contains two sides. The reverse side contains one side is the postal address, addressee, name, etc., and the other side is from from whom Dr. Shukla, so on. So contained written only in the half page of a postcard. So thank you very much, Suklaji. I am really elated. I
Not
am
today.
really strengthened that I am not an intruder into philosophy, but a friend, and it's not a guide, a follower of philosophy. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Hello.
Sir, namaskar.
Namaskar.
Sir,
Bolliye.
you please tell in one sentence whether pragmatism is a philosophy or not. Do you agree or not?
It is, as Dr. Shukla commented, it is both yes and no. But I feel it is just a branch of philosophy. It can never be taken as philosophy like other branches of it.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Okay.
If anybody is there, or I shall have my.
Thank you,
Yes.
thank you, thank you, Sukla. Well, from the position Dr. Sukla takes and from the discussions that is following, one thing is so clear that Dr. Sukla has no problem with pragmatism as a theory, but it sees pragmatism as much like a sociological theory or an economic theory or a political theory, where we have changing patterns, but it cannot be taken as because of not having a SIP stand, because it lacks an ontological status. So that is the basic commitment that Dr. Sukla is defending. So this is how I understand. So he is not worried about the pragmatic theory as it is, but the problems that it carries, he finds that it cannot be incorporated. It cannot be as philosophy as such. So that is the cry that he has inside, that not incorporating philosophy, pragmatism into the very basic structure of philosophy. So that's how I see, I understand Dr. Sukla. Well, anybody in the chat box? I don't find. Um, Shravani madam, do you have anything in mind? Please, please unmute. You can have your words.
Sir, namaskar.
Madam, namaskar, madam, please.
Uh, Audible, sir?
Madam,
Sir.
audible, audible.
Thank you very much, Shukla sir, for your wonderful presentation. I have some different opinion that we cannot say that pragmatism is totally different from philosophy. Philosophy, pragmatism, it's a real life situation. Pragmatism, what I have a little knowledge. Still, what I have learned from your presentation, pragmatism is very practical and need based situations that we face in our life, and immediately solve with our skills, with our knowledge, and face these situations. How can it be? We can say that it is one exit from philosophy. It's what Radhanath sir has told, that it's one branch of philosophy. It's not related to philosophy. It's I don't have that. I don't accept it. It's one branch of philosophy, and very need based and practical oriented. Uh, if I am wrong, then kindly guide us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Before making any sort of assertion, I
Sir,
have
please, sir,
absolutely
sir,
no
your
problem.
voice, sir, sir, your voice.
Thank you, ma'am. See, first of all, I have absolutely no problem if my view is um, contested, because I strongly believe that philosophical discourse become useless unless it is contested by the contradictory position. So a philosopher is bound to assert one position and defend it by logical argument. So I cannot say that simply I don't like pragmatism and that is why pragmatism is not a part of philosophy. I am compelled to present some consistent arguments which should be unchallenged up to the end. So if you are claiming, ma'am, as you have said, that according to you, pragmatism should be accepted as a part of philosophy, then I would ask again, what do you mean by philosophy while making such a statement? Or maybe, according to you, what should be a standard definition of philosophy? Simply to say that philosophy is made up of two Greek words, philo and sophia, which means love of knowledge or the quest of wisdom, gives me nothing.
Sir,
For me, it is an. Ji, ma'am.
sir.
Ji.
What I mean, with my little knowledge, philosophy, I mean different perceptions based on knowledge, quest for, search for knowledge. All these are related to philosophical thoughts, philosophical perceptions that we see. What I mean, on that basis, I have told that pragmatism is a branch of philosophy. Told.
So, ma'am, you
Can
have.
we say, sir? Can we say that it's totally ideal? It's totally based on idealism. What you have told, philosophy is only based on idealism. It has no such trend on contextuality, or it is related to practical needs. What I have written in the chat box about Srimad Bhagavad Gita. What is that? That is the practical need of a person. That is a person who is confused person, and God Sri Krishna has convinced in entire Gita about the contextual duty, contextual knowledge, all these things. Can we say, sir, it's not related to philosophy?
Uh, Ma'am, being related to being related to philosophy and
Yes, sir.
being a philosophy are two different things.
Okay.
So, saying that love of knowledge is philosophy, so then I would respond by saying If that is the definition of philosophy for you, so a sociologist is also in love with knowledge, a biologist is also in love with knowledge, an economics person is also in love with knowledge. But according to your very flexible definition, in that sense, everybody under the sun is a philosopher. And if you are taking such an overarching definition, the dialogue would go nowhere. So that is my problem. I hope I have made myself clear. So there can be a practicality of philosophy, there can be an applicable aspect of philosophy, but still, philosophy has to be theoretical, technical, and pure. Just like mathematics, as Professor Bera has said, there can be application of mathematics, but mathematics itself cannot be an applicable discipline. It is bound to be a theoretical discipline which you can see, which we can do in the department by having a pen, a paper, and a mind. So you can use mathematics, you can use philosophy in the practical field, but that does not make it a field discipline, a practical discipline. That is my humble submission. I hope I have been made myself clear, sir. Yes,
Thank you.
Bera.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shukla. Well, very nicely said. Well, in the chat box too, Dr. Shukla has clearly referred to Sri Krishna as a philosopher and Arjuna as not a philosopher. Someone who is confused is not a philosopher. I don't know. I don't know. But a philosopher is someone who can come to the practical stance, but someone who is in the practical stance may not turn into philosophy, into the basics, into the foundational structure of what philosophy is. Someone who has a foundational basis, someone who is grounded in that, having an ontological status, someone who is grounded to the basics, can turn to the outward world to address to the outward situations. But addressing to the outward situations may come out of philosophy, but that is not philosophy. And Dr. Shukla has clearly said that something which comes out of philosophy cannot be equated with philosophy. Something that is related to philosophy is not philosophy. So, and again, he says something that is coming out of philosophy has a practical side, and we cannot admit or cannot equate that practical aspect as philosophy itself. So these are the various positions that Dr. Shukla says, and he's very stiff to his stand, and I honor that that commitment to his thesis. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Well, we have, well, sir, Radhana, sir, in brief, sir, please. Okay. Yes, sir. Dr. Behra.
Now, following the cue raised in the Gita, Lord Krishna may be a philosopher, but not Arjuna because Arjuna had his limitations. He is a pragmatic man. What do I get? The whole of kingdom by smashing, killing, annihilating my own kith and kin? What shall I gain? It's a very, very pragmatic statement of Arjuna. But Sri Krishna steps in as a philosopher, raising him to the status of a real Kshatriya, that your duty is to fight. Niskam karma. You have to surrender your action that to uh, winning a kingdom or slaying your own kith and kin, rise above it because you are born to save others from perishing and to safeguard morality, safeguard righteousness. That is philosophy. And Lord Krishna qualifies to be a philosopher where the disgruntled or unhappy Arjuna was mere a pragmatic thinker or a practical man who had no such philosophical basis. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, we had a beautiful evening. Well, we took we listened to many people, and we also saw the position taken by Dr. Shukla. Let us now move to our admin, Dr. Das, Pramod Das, sir. Let us see what he has got to say on the talk and also the discussion that followed. Namaskar, sir, please.
Thank you, sir. This is a very interesting topic. Actually, Professor Shukla has traveled a long distance and he just reached today in from a seminar after 3 days journey. Yes, in one sense, we can say that pragmatism is not a philosophy. Uh, that sense is pragmatism is the best philosophy. How? I shall justify. If we define philosophy as Professor Shukla claims, that philosophy is a conceptual analysis. It is an exercise of mind through ideas. It is a theoretical pursuit. This is what we call philosophy. Then automatically metaphysics comes, and he claims that in every philosophy there is metaphysics, whether it looks vibrant or it is hidden. Even in the school of empiricism, he says that there is metaphysics. In Immanuel Kant's philosophy, there is metaphysics. In logical positivism, there is metaphysics. In Buddhism, there is metaphysics. So somehow or other, philosophy is related with conceptual analysis having a zone of metaphysics. If this feature is lacking, then we cannot call a discipline as philosophy. Let us accept this position. What is the problem with us? Pragmatism says, if this is your stand, then let us use it in your life. If you have created good ideas, suppose Hegelian model, thesis, antithesis, synthesis. This is a philosophical model. And this model has been enriched by the conceptual analysis of thesis, antithesis, and then synthesis. This is a logical exercise of mind. If you really understood this, then let us use that in your practical life. What is your problem? So pragmatism is an approach of philosophy. As idealism is another approach. As realism is another approach. So to my mind, philosophy should not be confined to a particular ism, and philosophy should not be devoid of a particular ism. Because the job of philosophy is not to be confined with any ism or to be devoid of any ism. Isms have been created by the philosophers from their own perspectives. Therefore, philosophy, many times I have said that philosophy actually has divided men into different philosophers. We spend our whole life keeping one ism in our pocket, that I am an empiricist, or I am a rationalist, or I am a phenomenalist, etc., etc. So philosophy should go beyond that. But why such question takes place in Western land? Why such questions are really bothering us? Because the very foundation of Western philosophy is that they are taking philosophy as a conceptual exercise, conceptual analysis. There is a very beautiful book written by William James, that the varieties of religious experience. In that book, he is highlighting on religious experiences. That experience is very, very practical. What we do really experience, and how can we take the best use of our experiences in our life. Entire Indian philosophy is based upon the synthesis of theory and practice. Here, in Indian context, this is not a problem, because Indian philosophy is pragmatic by nature, because here philosophical analysis, darsana, is very much related with human life. When Buddha is claiming that life is full of suffering, here suffering is not a concept. Your life is not a concept. Buddha is not analyzing the concepts of life and suffering. Buddha is hinting to the real suffering of life. What is the real suffering? It is our desires. It is our passion. Real passion, not the conceptual passion. And that passion, that desire is the real suffering of human life. And nirvana is the real solution to the. So the problem is real, and the solution is real, and we are discussing about real life situation in Indian philosophy. But in Western philosophy, what happens? We try to become a philosopher. In what way? A philosopher is qualified if he has a very good analytic bent of mind. He analyzes concepts, but reach nowhere. That is because there is no conclusion in philosophy. What Plato said, it is rejected by Aristotle. What Aristotle said, it is rejected by the followers. Because there is no conclusion in philosophy, so it is a just abstract conceptual analysis. If this definition goes well with philosophy, then naturally it can be concluded. If this definition goes, if this assumption stands, then the conclusion will be that pragmatism is not a philosophy. But if you reverse the assumption that philosophy is very much linked with our practical life, as we find in Indian philosophy, then philosophy itself is pragmatic. If it is not pragmatic, it is a theoretical pursuit, theoretical discussion. So, pragmatism is not a philosophy in this sense that no ism can be defined as the sole philosophy. Philosophy is about all isms, and philosophy is about no isms, because we cannot bracket philosophy into a particular ism. That is the problem. We should not do that. So this is my stand, as I understand.
Thank you, thank you, Professor Das. But the position that Dr. Shukla takes is philosophy is just a search. Go on searching, 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 and if something materializes from the search, it is no more philosophy. You take it pragmatism, you take it sociology, you take it politics, whatsoever, but that is not philosophy. So as long as you are in the search, in the process of search, going on a search, hunting, 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 trying to get, you are in the process of searching the fundamentals, you are doing philosophy. So that is the position that Dr. Shukla is there too. But when something materializes, it is no more philosophy. Becomes a part of sciences, it becomes a part of sociology, it becomes a part of social sciences whatsoever, but it is not philosophy. So that is the tough stand I think Dr. Shukla is taking. It is just the search, it's just the search, and
Yes,
only the
yes, yes. From that perspective, it can be said like that. But we have to accept. But we have to accept that perspective as a perspective. We have to accept that perspective as the real definition of philosophy. If we define philosophy in that way, as you said now, then it's all right. But is it so? Is philosophy that? That is the question. If we say that philosophy is only searching for searching, searching and searching for nothing, if it is searching for nothing, if this is philosophy, then nothing can be included in philosophy except searching. Okay, if it is searching for something, then every ism will be included in philosophy. This is the stand. So this confusion is not there in Indian philosophy. Thank you.
Just to add one line, sir. Can I?
Yes, yes, sir.
yes, sir.
It is
Yes,
it
sir.
is your
We
it is
will
your
love to
your
learn from you. Yes, sir. Please.
Maybe that is the reason that in Indian context, philosophy has not been originally mentioned as darshan. The term was coined much later. Originally, it was mentioned as Parishkar Vidya or Anvikshiki. The term Parishkar Vidya here simply meant, in the literal sense, that we refine our understanding so that हमारी समझ और ज़्यादा चमक सके. So I am polishing my understanding more and more so as to make my understanding clearer than before. That is Nyaya position, sir. Thank you, sir.
Agree, sir.
I have a
Sir,
simple line.
sir, good, 1 minute. Sir, Radhana, sir,
Hello.
here, here, just wait 1 minute, sir. Radhana, sir. Here you uttered this sentence. What you said now, that philosophy is an exercise of polishing our thoughts better and better and better. Indian philosophy says when our mind is polished, when our mind is organized in a better way, it becomes a better mind. So becoming a better mind, having a better understanding is also a position, pragmatic position that we have and that we live. So this sentence you are uttering, that philosophical discussion, philosophical analysis leads towards achieving, attaining the better understanding, better understanding mind, or better awakening mind. Yes, that is the elevation. That is the practical life. That life we should experience. This is what William James says in his book, The Varieties of Religious Experience. Because the religious experience have a variety, it has its variety. We have to understand that by living that. So this is the position of William James in Western, and this is the position of all Indian philosophers in India. So the point is, we have the only instrument, that is mind. That mind analyzes. So is it not a concept? Pragmatism, is pragmatism not a concept that one fellow came forward to think, that let us think about the practical aspect of life? Is it not a conceptual analysis? Is it not a thought? Is it not an aspect of thinking? Everybody should go with the one way traffic, that is conceptualism, etc., etc. So some philosophers came forward to discuss about the practical utility of our mental exercise in Indian context. Why Lord Krishna explained Arjuna? Because Lord Krishna knew everything. What was the necessity of explaining everything to Arjuna? Because he wants that the confused mind should be an enlightened mind. The person who is denying to fight, he should come forward to fight. The inactive mind should become active. The unconscious mind should become more conscious. So this is a practical direction to the perfection of our life. So this in the, if we shall take this way, I think the proposition that pragmatism is not a philosophy, it will be justified. There is no wrong in saying that pragmatism is not a philosophy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, the discussion can take long, and um, we can have these discussions continuing later on too. But still, from the Indian standpoint, also we make a distinction of Shreya and Preya also. So that distinction always creeps up Shreya in a different height, untouched by Preya, because that distinction, Sreya, Preya, something which is pragmatically good and something that is spiritually good. So you have the distinction even in the Indian standpoint too. So that's how I see Dr. Shukla is defending something, and it can be, I think, this is well, we have reservations. Well, we see the practical side. Well, we understand. We cannot. Dr. Das has reservations that why not see the practical side, but Dr. Shukla is stripped to his stand that something in philosophy, something. Let us be in an abstract world. It doesn't matter. Somebody calling us, we are not concrete in that sense. Doesn't matter. Let we be in the abstraction, but it is the real shape that gives a structure to philosophy. That I think Dr. Shukla takes a stand.
Dr. Rao, the last sentence I shall say.
Yes, sir.
If you, what now you said, if you will say that then we shall say no to the entire field of practical ethics, applied philosophy. That will be a big no. We shall go back to the Plato and Aristotle, and we shall be confined ourselves with abstract conceptual analysis as a philosophy student or philosophy teacher. The way we are now advancing, we are now discussing about the philosophy of technology, philosophy of modern society. Philosophy is such a concept, such an exercise which can take everything to its confinement. If we, I agree. If therefore I am taking it in a hypothetical sense. If this is the view, then the sentence that after pragmatism is not philosophy is correct. But if it is accepted, if it is taken to be granted, then it will be a big no to the rise of applied ethics, to the rise of practical perspective for philosophy, practical use of philosophy in our life. This is my stand. I am not speaking against the contention of Dr. Shukla or yours.
Sir. So it's philosophy, sir. It is something invisible, sir. Philosophy, you cannot make it visible. It is the current within the wire that makes a fan move, that makes a fan move or the light ignite. So, well, the practical side is the moving of fan or the lighting of the lamp. But philosophy as an invisible thread that has to stay, whatever practical side that you take. So it stays something invisible, and that's how Dr. Shukla is saying it's an invisible search, and let the search go on. And to light the fields of sociology or pragmatism whatsoever. So that is how I see
But
Dr.
I shall appreciate Professor
And very
Shukla
good, sir. Very good stand, sir. Very good stand,
very
sir.
I shall appreciate his effort for one thing, that actually he means to say that in the name of pragmatism, in the name of because if pragmatism is good, then give its credit. There is no problem with Professor Shukla. But the Professor Shukla is saying, in the name of pragmatism, don't limit the beauty of philosophy. Philosophy has its own beauty. Philosophy has its own engagement. That we should not convert, we should not divert that direction, taking pragmatism to its purview and other. But the situation is not the present day life, and the progress in philosophy will not permit this flow, because it is expanding now. Philosophy is expanding now. This is the problem. But whatever Professor Shukla said, and he is with that conviction till the end. That is the submission of a philosopher. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Behera, please go. Sir, in a few. Yes, sir.
Last word from my side, sir.
Sir, please, sir. Yes, sir.
If philosophy, any thought which claims to be a philosophical thought, and it is no more philosophy because it doesn't stimulate further thought. Science is pragmatic because it deals too much on verification. It is analysis of the parts, whereas philosophy is synthesis of the whole. There is a difference. And every scientist, unless he becomes a sort of philosopher, would stagnate because not all theories are to be verified. Certain theories have practical implications, but others are not. They may be mindfully thought over and would take you very too far. Don't insist on practicality or utilitarian aspect of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, Dr. Ghosh, please, sir.
I don't remember exactly, but somebody said that philosophy is like searching a black cat in a dark room. So how a pragmatist will respond to this? Thank you.
Sir, I may add one more line. It is not a black cat. The philosophers say It's a black hat, a dark room having a black hat, which is not there. That again is interesting.
Yes. So somebody has defined philosophy as a search for a black cat in a dark room where there is none. Search for a black cat in a dark room where there is none. But sometimes I take a stand that search for a black cat in a dark room where there is
Somebody,
none. But somehow,
somebody, somebody suggested there is a black cat. Search for it, which is not there. So
uh,
that is how philosophy may lead you or it may mislead you, but the search will go on. Okay.
so beautiful thing comes when we think of this line in this way. Philosophy is a search for a black cat in a dark room where there is none. Well, we see more of philosophy in it. But when you say philosophy is a search for a black cat in a dark room, assuming that there is one, maybe we are on the pragmatic side. I don't know. I don't know.
No, 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 no. Dr.
I don't know.
Rao,
Huh.
in this line, Professor Shukla is justified. Actually, if we are searching for a black cat in the dark room where there is not the black cat, that means philosophy is only searching oriented. When we find something, it becomes science. So far as we are searching, we are philosophers. If we find the black cat, it becomes the science. If we
That is
find
what I'm
the
saying. That is what I'm
yes,
saying. When you
uh,
assume that there is one, it becomes science. But there is no assumption, that is philosophy.
then what is the conclusion? The conclusion is it goes with Professor Shukla that he is also saying that he is saying that a philosopher should be engaged in searching only. It is the job of science that will find something. If botany is a finding, chemistry is a finding, physics is a finding, but philosophy is the source of that finding. Philosophy is searching the secrets, and it is go on searching without having any conclusion. Professor Shukla is saying that philosophy should be contented with this job. This is the charm of philosophy. A philosopher should be like that. He should not reach at a conclusion. It is the job of a science to reach at a conclusion and to give a name to that science, like botany or zoology, etc., etc. Even sociology, psychology, all logies are the findings of findings. But philosophy is not interested in findings. Philosophy is interested in searching. If this much, Professor Shukla is right, but the present trend is not that. Now the present trend is a child is also asking why, what for philosophy. Here comes pragmatism. Why should I read philosophy? This is pragmatism. So here we are connecting philosophy with human life. When it is connected, we are talking about pragmatism. When it is disconnected with human life and simply we have conceptual analysis sitting in our study room, then it is philosophy. Therefore,
So
Professor Shukla is claiming one thing consistently that philosophy should not lose its charm in the name of pragmatism. Pragmatism is all right; it has its own status, but philosophy should, the charm of philosophy should not be lost. This is his position, as I think.
thank you, Dr. Das. But when in the process of search, when something materializes in the search, it is no more philosophy then. It becomes a part of science. Not that nothing materializes, it becomes a part of science. But the search goes on, and if again something materializes, it again becomes a part of science. That's how
Yes,
philosophy keeps connected with the scientific world. It keeps connected with
naturally.
the practical arena. But philosophy is just confined to the search. But something
Even,
materializes to the search,
sir,
no more
even
a part of philosophy.
philosophy discusses about the philosophy of science. That is also philosophy. Philosophy of anything, dash. So philosophy means to have a conceptual analysis about different concepts, including the concept science. So it is only searching and searching. When we are finding something, it becomes science. But pragmatism says philosophy should be scientific. This is the claim of pragmatism, that philosophy should not be unscientific. Philosophy should not begin and end with speculation. Philosophy should be very much scientific and should be very much related with practical life. This is the
Okay.
two. There
Thank
are two claims.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Very beautiful evening we
Uh,
had,
Let, let,
and the
let's not
discussion will
quarrel
continue
among
now.
ourselves. Professor Rao,
Sir,
let us not quarrel about the truth within philosophy. We are all, most of us are from the Odisha belt. Professor Shukla may feel uneasy because if we go on quarreling about the truth of our talk among ourselves from Odisha, Professor Valmiki, Professor Shukla may feel somewhat
no,
lost
no,
within
no.
the jungle of thought. So
There is
let us give them a chance. We
no quarrel,
discuss
sir.
within ourselves.
There is
We
no
may
quarrel.
discuss it.
There is no
We
quarrel. It
may
is just
discuss among ourselves
yes,
later on and give a sort of a respite.
yes.
One thing
It is
is true: if you claim philosophy is a branch of practical side, if you look at it, what Newton said was proved to be wrong by Einstein. So he had his philosophic mind. Out of that came the theory of the gravitation, and later on refined as theory of relativity by Einstein. So that the stimulation of thought is scientific, and that is beyond pragmatism. Thank you.
okay, sir. Thank you. We had a beautiful discussion. We were
We should
discussing,
conclude. We shall
never
conclude here.
quarreling, never
No,
quarreling.
no,
We
not
were
at all.
trying
Not
to
at all.
understand Dr. Sukla. We have always kept Dr. Sukla in the comfort zone. We are just trying to learn from Sukla, from the talk of Sukla, from the defense of Sukla. So it is
Quarreling,
not
rather
reverse, not reverse.
this impression that here is the land where analytic philosophy is still live, lively. That is what he will get the.
Yes, yes,
So we
yes. If Professor Shukla will mind, then he will contradict himself because he is claiming that philosophy is conceptual analysis. So here we are making analysis, and analysis has no end. Analysis has no end. So it will go on. But what we subscribe his view. If philosophy should be taken very seriously, very strictly, then it should be confined to the conceptual analysis, and it is philosophy actually. Therefore we are talking about philosophy of physics, chemistry, etc., etc. So far as the pragmatism is concerned, okay, this is one approach to philosophy. It is one approach to philosophical pursuit. Okay,
Okay, thank you,
thank you.
sir.
So
Well, the
we should
discussion
go
will
for a
continue
vote of
on.
thanks.
It will continue long, and well, we had a very beautiful evening, and I thank Dr. Sukla for the thesis that he has come up with. Very bold thesis. Thank you so much. Well, we'll move to Dr. Kailas Mahana sir for a vote of thanks, and he have his own position and also propose a formal vote of thanks.
Okay, okay,
Dr.
okay.
Mahana,
Thanks so much.
please.
Okay, thanks so much, Dr. Rao. So,
Dr. Rao,
Sir,
I think Professor Shukla should speak 2 or 3 sentences as his concluding remark. That will be good.
yes, sir, Dr.
Last
Sukla.
last 3 or 4
Yes, sir,
sentences.
yes, sir,
This
Dr.
is
Sukla.
this is an honor to the speaker.
Yes, sir, definitely, Dr. Sukla.
Sir, as I have deliberately mentioned time and again, I have no problem with pragmatism as a position because since the time of Protagoras and Charvak, and every time we work with the practicality. I mean, I would just wind up the talk and then go, let's say, for any particular purpose. So I have some purpose, I have some practicality in mind. So that is absolutely without any problem. So pragmatism as a practical approach is uncontested, and I have absolutely no problem with that. The problem is only such that pragmatism opens such a Pandora box where the tagline of everything goes becomes functional. तो ये जो सब कुछ चलता है वाली बात अगर फिलॉसफी में आ जाएगी, that will make our subject too dilute. And the point is this: you talk about medicine, you talk about physics, you talk about literature, कहीं भी किसी भी प्योर डिसिप्लिन में ऐसा कभी नहीं होता कि यू विल डाइल्यूट योर सेल्फ so that it will become popular. Should not philosophy have a minimal audacity of its own? If you are prone to become a philosopher, if you are to learn philosophy, you have to come to our level. Our understanding, our theories, our methodology, our principle is not to be diluted for the sheer purpose of popularity. Purity and popularity are two different things. And purity should never be compromised for the very superficial reason of popularity. That's my humble position. Thank you.
How you are position that you are a critic of pragmatism. As a philosopher, you are a critic of pragmatism.
Yes.
Hello.
Dr. Mahana.
Okay. Okay. Thanks so much, Dr. Rao. So today we have a very good session with Dr. Shukla, and we have listened so many lectures from Dr. Shukla in previous webinars, and Dr. Shukla has made his stand very clear. And today I would like to extend my gratitude to Dr. Shukla and Professor Bose, Professor Valmiki, Professor Behera, Professor Rao, and Professor Das. The way the speaker discussed the topic and the way the participants extended their views